All right, welcome back everybody. Well, today is a great day because you're going to learn how to play Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones. And it's going to be a little different than what we normally do here because I'm going to show you three ways. I'm going to show you three different ways that you can play this song and have it sound credibly very much like the record. So we're going to learn three different ways that you can do this song in standard tuning, in open G tuning, and in open E tuning. So this is the kind of thing you like and you haven't done so already. I appreciate if you jump down and click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell will let you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. All my videos have chapters in them. You can jump right to the part of the lesson that you want to see and bypass what you don't. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I really do appreciate that. There's thanks, which is like throwing a tip in the tip jar, a little button below. Or you can join my Patreon page where I've got chord charts and tabs for all the lessons that I do on YouTube, like this one. And all the links are in the description. Check it out. Okay, so Gimme Shelter, this great piece of work by Keith Richards. And I'm pretty sure all the guitar work is done by Keith on this, this particular song. And we're going to talk about the, like I said, the rhythm guitar parts and the lead guitar parts, and do it in three different ways. The first way I'm going to show you is just if you're in a standard tuned guitar and you know you've got this as part of your set with your band. So we'll talk about how to do that. What doesn't change throughout the entire video here is going to be the tone that I'm using, the tones and the sounds that I'm using. So, so what I'm using, what seems to sound closest to me, to the record, is my Les Paul on my neck pickup. I've got a little bit of signal boost going on, but otherwise it's clean. It's not. I don't have dirt for the rhythm guitar. I've got a small amount of overdrive pedal for my blues driver, which I'll layer on when I get to the lead. But even that's not a whole lot. And I'm running through my new to me Vox. It's a 1967 Vox Cambridge reverb, which I'm really enjoying. It's a little solid state Cambridge reverb. It's got reverb and vibrato on it, and it's their version of a Princeton, basically, from back in the day. But I'm loving this amp, so I think it sounds good with this. And I've got some tremolo dialed up on that. So hopefully that's coming through. I don't know the exact speed. That maybe a little faster on the Stones song, but you want to have a little bit of reverb and a little bit of vibrato or tremolo on there. Now the chords that we're using, the chords throughout the song is basically three chords. It's a C sharp, a B, and an A. And you're going to sprinkle in sort of an E note or an E chord in there, depending on which version, which tuning you're going to use, which I'll talk about. Now, before I get into the exact riff, I want to let you know this is, again, a little different than what I normally do. I'm going to show you all the finger placement and the neighborhood of where everything is. But I'm not going to go exactly note for note, riff for riff, exactly on everything. There's a great video that you may be familiar with too, from Shut Up and Play. I'll link it on here. And he's got this nailed down to every single sort of pick stroke and every part on the riff that he does it. And he does his lesson on open E tuning. So if you're interested in going to that level of detail, that's a great reference for you. I will have that level of detail in my posted tabs for my Patreon members though. But for the lesson here, I'm not going to go through every single one painstakingly and every single variance, okay? Hope that made sense. Okay, so this opening riff, we're going to tackle it like this. So we're going to think of our C shape, our chord shape. And if you think of this being the top of your bar chord shape and this being the bottom of your bar chord shape, we're going to slide our index finger up to what we normally think of as the bottom of that chord shape. And we're going to leave our fingers free to do Keith stuff, right? And that's how we're going to manage the fingering of this opening riff, okay? But it starts like this on the, laying your finger down on the 6th fret. Like I said, every little pick stroke isn't exact, but I want to get you in the ballpark where the position is, right? So I'm only playing strings 4, 3, and 2 in all of that. That's the first one. And then this one's a little different. Right? So it's this last one over A is 2 frets up on both strings. Whereas the riff on this is one fret up on the B string and 2 frets up on the G string. Okay? So one more time. Then we get this riff, right? So that's done just a little differently. Same thing, 2 frets down on the B. And then back to our normal. So that's the opening riff. Now when we get to our chords from this point on, when we're playing our sort of rhythm chords, in standard tuning, I think it actually sounds better if we go to big bar chord shape now, okay? Rather than keeping with this. You can, but I think it's better because you can get that open E. Climb up. I think that's an important part of the song anyway, for the riff anyway. Right? Open 5th, open 5th, open 7th, open 7th, 9. So all those are major. C sharp major, B major, A major, okay? So then while the verses are going on, the little riff how he phrases the chord is very cool. And here's where you sort of have to give up a little bit. If you're playing in standard tuning, it's not going to sound as close to the record as what we'll see with open G and open E. But you can get a very credible, close sound, again, with this sort of fingering, because what I found is if you sort of use this shape and you sort of take off your ring finger and pinky, the 5th and 4th string, right? You want to avoid that major 3rd during this part. You sort of want to bounce back and forth there. And here's where you complement it with. So you take that and you flatten your ring finger over and then come back to your regular shape. So it sort of sounds like this. Just sort of bouncing back and forth between those shapes. Okay, and then we learn the rest of the catch those E's. Right? So that's all the rhythm part. So let's talk about the lead guitar part. Now for the lead, I kicked on a little bit of overdrive, and like I said, very light. I've got all the details in the description of the gear that I'm using for the signal chain here. Yeah, so during the opening riff, So you can work right in your everything falls really nicely in the C sharp minor pentatonic box. Everything is sort of right there with standard tuning nicely, right? So your opening riff can either be, or you can stay on the E string, right? But you're going to be playing in this spot. Right, so that's on the B string. Get that little half bend up on 10, on the 9th fret. And like I said, all the little nuances of that, I won't go all of it note for note, but that's the spot that you're playing all of this in. And then there's the last part where it's, and the riff closes out with. Right? And then you're into your verse. Right? So that's the intro part. Now the regular lead later in the song, it's all very nicely in the C minor pentatonic box, very where you would expect it to be. I think that was pretty note for note. But again, so that's where everything is with standard tuning. So you can get a very credible version with that if you use those components, in my opinion. But let's talk about a couple of the other alternative tunings that you can do and nail the song to. And we'll start with open G, which is coming up next. And an open G tuning, if you don't know what that is, your low string goes down to a D, your 5th string goes down to a G, you leave strings 4, 3, and 2 alone, and you tune your high E string, high-pitched E string, number 1, down to a D. So it's D, G, D, G, B, D is what it ends up being. And then, but what I'm going to do after I do that is I'm putting a capo on 2. So really it's now sort of like an open A chord, really. And you know, I have to adjust fine tuning to make sure that I'm in tune once I put the capo on there. But anyway, just want to orient you to that's the tuning I'm going to use. And there's really only one reason why I'm putting the capo on there. You actually don't have to, but I'm going to do it for that one part where you're going to hit that E chord and you're bouncing back and forth as you're climbing back up. I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay, so now that we're in this tuning, all right, so now the places that we're going to be playing the opening riff is now on the 6th fret, the 4th fret, and open, or the 2nd fret. If you don't have a capo, you can just play it with your finger at the 2nd fret. Right? So those shapes now become this, that little riff. Right? And then we do this one. And what's interesting with this tuning is you could play it this way, or that note is now right here, which is even easier. Right? Or but I thought that was really cool. That's one thing you get when you get to this tuning. And then going back to our rhythm chord, I do sort of a quick pull off in between the chords. And it's not technically correct. Like really you want an open E chord when you do that pull off, but it still sounds, it still works when you're doing this in a full band context. And then down to our second. And then here's why I'm capoing, so you can get this. You can do it with your finger, it's just a little harder, so. I find that bands that don't do that little thing live, it just seems a little lacking to me, my own personal taste. I just want to hear that all the time, so that's an easy way that you can do that. Right? And then we're just running through all the same normal sort of chord shapes. And then with this tuning, it looks like this. I'm sort of playing it all over the place, but it's, you're going to use that form. And then you're going to add this on. You're just alternating between that. Okay, so that's the rhythm formations. The lead, because you have your E string, tuned down 2 frets, that's one thing you'll need to compensate for if you're going to be playing the lead in this tuning. But all the other strings, 4, 3, and 2, they're in the same place that you would normally sort of know if you're familiar with your pentatonic box. So I think it's easy. Maybe easiest to do it from this position. So the first notes can either be both on the E string, or you can do it the B and the E string. Sort of make a little D shape there. So, this is during the intro. Let me put a little dirt on that. Right, so it's all sort of in this position. You can think of this is your minor pentatonic box that you would normally be used to if you just think about this on the 9th fret. And the only difference again is this E string. You have to compensate up 2 notes. That's the same note. That's the same note as that. Right? So you're just playing in there. You're doing your little half bend on that minor. That's your B string at 9. While this is going. Right? Right, so that's, again, I'm not going to play all of the lick for lick. Shut Up and Play has a great video where he takes it note for note, every single one, and feel free to check that out. But I just want to give you the position and where your hand is going to be. Improvising right in that spot is all going to sound epic. And then you end it because you're right there in that box. right? So that's the intro lead, and then the, you know, the regular lead that comes later, it's again right in this box. You gotta get your pinky on that one. Remember, don't bend all the way up. Don't do that. Do this. All right, so that's the open G variants. Let's now talk about what I think is what's done on the record and what I think sounds best, which is the open E tuning. Okay, so now the open E tuning. So like I said, I think this is the tuning that he used on the record, I believe. It's my favorite. I think it just sounds the most like it. But the shapes are just a little bit different from what we've learned so far, but let's look at those together now. So now we are an open E tuning, which means you're tuned to like a cowboy E chord, right? So to do that, you would need to tune your A string up to a B, your D string up to an E, and your third string, G string, up to a G sharp, right? So that's just an open E chord like that, right? So now the shapes are going to be somewhat similar to what we just learned with open G, but everything's sort of moved, or a lot of stuff is moved this direction on the fretboard, the shapes, right? And they're in a little bit different place. So the the chords we're going to be playing from now or the frets are from 9, because that's your C sharp, down to your, right, C sharp, yeah, then the B on the 7th fret, and your A on the 5th fret, right? And we're going to sneak some open E's, stabs in there like we did on the previous one, right? So again, just like Shut Up and Play, if you want the exact sort of note for note picking, he's got a great video on that. On my tabs, though, for my Patreon members, I will have this exactly on how it's played live. But for the lesson here, I'm just going to show you, you know, neighborhood. Okay, so we're on the 9th fret, straight across, and so the little intro part now, we're going to lay our fingers on 10 and 11. 10 on the 3rd string and 11 on the 4th string. So if you play with those, that's what we're working with. And then that's bouncing back between 7th and 5th on the, again, the 4th and the 3rd string. That's the one that I think makes this song for me, that great evil sounding. Here we go. Back up. Back up. Now we got this little riff. So you can play it that way. All on that G string. Or that 3rd note is right there. Just like we did with the open G tuning, we're just moved up a string. Or either way works. Now we're into our chord. We don't want to hit the last. We're really living on the 6th through 3rd string. But those little pull-offs, you want to use those sort of liberally. And we're into the song. So now the verse shapes. So we're barred straight across at the C sharp at 9, and you're sort of using your pinky to play with strings 5 and 4 at the 12th fret. Right? Feel free to hit strings next to it. You can add the key in there. Going down. I just find that pull off just sounds great. It just makes the song. And there you go. So that's all those are all the sort of chord shapes. So what does this mean for the solo section or the soloing in the open E tuning? Well, if you saw the demo at the front of the video, that was done in this open E tuning. And for the solo and the little noodling part that happens in the beginning, actually everything is very neatly placed right here between the 7th and the 9th fret. So on your first string between the 7th and 9th, same thing on the B string, and then the 8th fret on the G string. Everything is sort of right there. That note on the G string now is an E because of the tuning, which is the same also as your open first string. And I think there's a spot or two in there where actually he throws that in, and I'll get to that in just a sec. Yeah, so the little intro, it's right here. Or up, bend. I might have duplicated it, but it's all right there, right? And that's the only thing that's a little different. It's that little bend. So now your bending note, like if you think of the Chuck Berry, you know, like you gotta, that's now slid a little bit. So the bending note is now at the 10th fret on the G string. And your root note is here on the D string there at, what is that, 9, right? Whoops. So again, it's all right here. That's when he does. That's why I think that that open E string he could have done, but it just sounds like that he hits that. Whoops. Got the timing off. Anyway, it's all tabbed out for my Patreon members, and I got it all right. And if you want to know the right way to play it, just go back to the front of the video because I nailed it there. Okay, and that's the opening lead part. And then the rest of the lead part is, again, it's still sort of in that spot. And what you just have to be careful about is when you think of your minor pentatonic box at the C sharp position, you know, we're all in an open E tuning, so that's a major bar chord like that. So you just have to be mindful of where the bend string is, right? So you have to sort of slide that down one, but that ends up being here. to be careful about that note. You know, you're bending up and your note's there now. This is normal. Then back here. So that's really the trick, is just if you're playing in that tuning, you just have to be mindful of where that, you know, where your bend string is now. It's a little off, and really fun to play around with that. It makes new neural connections when you're moving your fingers in different places and getting sort of unexpected notes, right? Than what you're used to with your normal pentatonic shape. Okay, so that is 3 ways that you can credibly play Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones, whether you're doing it in standard tuning or an open G tuning or an open E tuning. That's how you're gonna do it. So I think it's fun to sort of learn all of them. But hope you learned something new today. If you did and you like what you saw and you haven't done so yet, please click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell will let you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this, and if there's another song you want me to take on and do a lesson similar, let me know what that is too, okay? So until next week, take care everybody.